the weekend. It's Friday night. We're chilling out here to the new single by indie rock newcomers, Messy Packaging from Detroit. Hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. Hey, what's going on? Let's turn this off, eh? Let's get rid of this. Terrible. They'll never make it.
Blew it. This was my pick.
God, now I can't get rid of it. Hey, everyone, what's going on? How do you turn this thing off?
Don't.
There we go. God, that's awful, wasn't it? Terrible. All right. Here we go. It's that time of the week again. We were off last week because I was doing my proper job at the weekend. It's good to be back. Got a great bunch of guys. Some gentle souls for this tonight. 3 gentle souls. Could have been the bouncing souls, but couldn't get them, so we got Everyone having a good time? I'm having a good time. It's bloody hot. Osaka, Saturday afternoon.
No, we're dealing with a windstorm here, so wind
saying,
and rain and cold. And, yeah.
You were saying. Derik's back. Good to see you.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Daniel's back. He's back in the midst of a wind storm.
I imagine the lighthouse, that movie, like you're out on the edge of a cliff and just the
he's like it's always
battering.
I can see the lighthouse from my backyard. So
it's terrible by the sea. All right, let's do the quick housekeeping and then we'll get going. Like and subscribe. There you go. In the new font, there's been a bit of an upgrade in the restream. Like and subscribe. Help us out. Let's see if anyone's watching. Hey, there they are. Scoots and James. How you doing, guys? Cheers. Everybody knows the format. Maybe some people don't know the format. What we do here is we each have 5 or sometimes more records that we've been listening to, and we have a bloody good time talking about what we're listening to. I hope you have a good time too. Let us know in the comments if we need your help or you make a mistake. Audience participation is important. I got a super chat the other week. You know what a super chat is? It shocked me. A super chat.
Oh, is that where they give you money?
Yeah. People were throwing their money at me. Well, $10.
I was going to say, does YouTube get 50% of that?
I don't know. I don't know if I even got it. I don't know where it went. I didn't see any of it.
Is that your offshore holding company?
I know. It's like I've been looking for it. Like, well, it's not in my PayPal account. It's like I don't know where it went. No idea.
Check your OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, what's up? Anyway, enough of this chit chat. Let's get going, shall we? You ready? I'm going to start off with a face melter out of Toronto, Canada, which I've been enjoying quite a bit. I didn't really like the other records by this band too much. Their other releases in the past, bit too noisy for me. Not enough hooks. Not bad. I've got the singles LP that is out there, but this new one, I've been liking it. I love it. Any guesses? Toronto, Canada, a bit noisy. La Vida.
I got a pretty good idea.
Okay. Let's have a look at it, shall we? Let's bring him out. There we go.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. S.H.I.T. Shit for a Better World. La Vida just came out. Why is this record good? Why don't I like the other records, but I like this one? I don't know. There's a bit more to it. The riffs, I think. Like the riffs on this simple, effective, and it's got, that what people call like forward-thinking hardcore, the psychedelia, the effects, all that kind of stuff that a lot of bands do. But those things kind of don't cloud this record like they do on like some records where it's all about the effects, and not like that. It's all about like the riffs, and I feel like they show a bit more restraint on this record. They sort of hold back a little bit more, and I think it works in their favor. I think, yeah, it's great. You know that the Dark album that we all love that came out from LA.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound like that, but it's kind of got that same sort of like that same sort of like mid-pace kind of swagger to it, you know. And it's like, man, that's just like really catchy kind of rocking riff, and you know, it's kind of got that same groove to it. Much noisier, more aggressive than the Dark, but it has the same effect on me. You know, the same. Maybe Japanese hardcore, some old like 80s Japanese hardcore riffs. Yeah, it's so good. And then it's very kind of repetitive and psychedelic. Is that the C?
That's not coming from me.
I heard that once before, actually, when we were.
Yeah.
I reckon that's Derik.
It's not me.
It's not me.
He's deflating.
Yes. Very menacing, like kind of menacing, dark, just like moves along at this kind of mid pace with just great riffs. And then the last song is my favorite because they slow it down even more, and it's the longest song. That's my favorite song. They kind of slow it down and a little bit of Chaos UK, but not much really. I want to say just much more menacing and dark than Chaos UK. Great stuff.
I feel bad. I keep meaning to check that out, and I haven't given it a listen yet because you know, they're buddies of mine and stuff, and you know, great people. And I really liked all the singles. Like the last album that they did, I thought it was good. It just is not one of those records I usually pull off the shelf.
Right.
But I heard one or two songs, like the teaser songs off this one, and it sounded fucking awesome. So
yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I'd been meaning to check out the Strawman Army, the new one. And I finally listened to that the other day. And then I meant to go and listen to this afterwards and got distracted, and you know how it goes. So
yeah, like I said, I mean, the other records to me are okay, but this is, I don't know, a cut above their previous records, in my opinion.
Yeah,
nice.
My take on it, I really like that record. I don't know if it would like. I agree. It's like I like it a lot better than the previous record, and I think from what I understand, like that previous record was the first one with Ivan from School Jerks playing drums.
Okay,
and it seemed to me like they sort of had trouble finding their style with him, you know, because he's kind of less of a groovy drummer, and I feel like more of a manic drummer, like, you know, like Kremlin or whatever. And Shit always had that like really kind of simple, like groovy drumming, you know. And I think it seems like they started speaking the same language on the new one, and it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, like the riffs are simple, the drums are simple, but not in a bad way. It works like these simple drum beats with the simple, but the riffs.
He keeps the like steady groove, but there's all kinds of things happening too.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
He's such a sick drummer. So good,
for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of like Ringo Starr, you know. It's like less is more, you know. It's just like he's keeping the beat, and it's the songs are kind of more. Sorry, I've got a couple of drummers in front of me. I don't know if I'm like saying the right words here, but it's like, you know, it just works with this band. You know, we don't need all the Frampted style fills, you know, on this. I think it would just clutter it. It will clutter it, in my opinion.
She's too manic for this.
It's funny because, like, you know, like that band Enzyme from Australia, they kind of do a lot of the same things in, you know, a lot of the effects and the bleeps and bloops and the psychedelia, but they're still sort of a fun, like, pogo punk band at the core of it. This ain't like that. This is kind of dark and like menacing and kind of has a real like dirty, dark groove to it. So,
but also like when you read the lyrics, like they're sort of like that, but they're also kind of like very like earnest or something. Like I don't know. I really like the lyrics. They're really, really vivid and sort of passionate. Yeah.
Captive in the Mutilated Vista is the last track.
Yeah,
that's my favorite. I don't know why I bought that. I think there's a couple of people I saw online who kept saying, "Yeah, this is amazing." And I think, like you, Dave, I listened to one or two of the tracks that were online. And I was like, "Yeah, man, this is great." So
yeah, it's definitely on my list of like, I need to check it out, but it's kind of one of those records that I already decided I was going to pick up at some point. So
right.
it's coming for sure. No.
You'll get to.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that's my first pick. Derik and
Nice.
Cat.
Oh, passing it clockwise. All right. So this is a band. This record is from '86, and I think a lot of people kind of Gen X age know this band because in latter era on this one, Eric Wood from Pillsbury Hardcore, Man is a Bastard played on it. So this Peace Corps, A Terror of History, the second one, and I got this at the if you guys heard of the Maplewood Record Fair in New Jersey. My buddy Nate. Wait, let me get it. There we go.
There you go. Got it. There you go.
More important to see this than my mug. Yeah, Maplewood Record Fair just gets better and better. Great people always, and a lot of old timers selling their collections. It's really, really nice. So yeah, I like it a lot more than I even thought I would. It's more eclectic than the first one, and I think the first one was Terror Quincy, or no, that's the collection. That's this guy, Quincy's Lament.
Quincy's Lament.
I knew it had something to do with Quincy.
That one, and then side A of this guy. So this has wood in it. It's more eclectic. It's kind of like I hear a little like Minutemen in there, maybe kind of like a more aggro Talking Heads, or like it's kind of funky at times. But the vocals are like almost like this sinister, snotty, like Charlie, what's his name? Nakajima from Deep Wound, like this. If you remember that song Pressure, like that kind of snotty thing. So I like that juxtaposition. And the guitars, if you're not familiar, almost a little surfy at times. Reminds me a little of this instrumental group from Canada, actually, Shadowy Men from Shadowy Planet.
Yeah, Don Pyle.
The Kids in the Hall theme.
Yep.
And speaking of surf, this is funny. I learned this about Shadowy Men, that they hated being labeled that, and they had a song called like "We're Not a Fucking Surf Band." But then when their box set came out, it was called, well, I guess we were a fucking surf band after all. So that was kind of cute. And
nice.
But another thing that's really significant about this and sent me down a rabbit hole was Bill Sassenberger, who started Toxic Shock Records with Juliana Townsend, his late wife, and pioneering. We were talking about getting into punk and then going from that, discovering these things and wanting to contribute to opening a shop, which is obviously a huge risk. And when he did it, and then I think she joined a year or two later. This was 79, 80 in Pomona, California. It's nowhere a suburb. And they didn't carry anything, any major label stuff, any kind of mainstream punk. So to do that then in this nowhere suburb is just amazing. And I was so interested in that origin story. I picked up his memoir, his book, Toxic Shock, Assassin of Mediocrity. And have you guys seen this? This just came out this year.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's definitely got my interest. I definitely want to pick up a copy and give it a read.
Yeah, it's funny. I've read it, and I read it when it came out a few months ago. And I actually, when I read it, I pulled out that Peace Corps 12-inch too. I had not listened to it in years. Yeah. So funny.
It's really, it reads like a tour diary. It's very kind of like youthful to me. It's like a sure experienced wise person wrote it, but it reads very like almost like with the same kind of enthusiasm that a kid would have in describing these experiences. And it's also really touching because it's Juliana died in 2019, so the chapters kind of start with an anecdote about her. She had a stroke and I believe it was 2012, and that whole story going back and forth from that time to back further, starting from his childhood through there. So it's really cool. And it's just amazing how what was going on like at that time in that place. And it was the start of all of that. and to be experimental when Dead Kennedys and bands like that were really popular. But there was a lot of really, wild, wacky, noisy bands as well. So it's just really cool to hear something like that from that early on. And although I like their early stuff, like, which sounds more like something that would be involved in, like the first record. What's that opening track? It's just like a really dirty, like down, like a really heavy, but still with those, snarling, kind of teenage sounding vocals, those deep wound vocals. And what's this couple? Hold on. Yeah, see that? Oh. But yeah, no, it's an incredible story, and it's just like as amazing as I think that was at the time, and what was to start something like that out of nowhere. It's also kind of universal, I think, to people like us who wanted to be more than spectators, like get involved and make real contributions, try to put something new and original out there, and also just kind of finding people, writing to people. Like I just recently found a box of old letters, and I was like, how did I know this band existed for the internet? And it's just a beautiful thing. Like we were talking about mutual friend Dave Monroe in Canada, how just started, read a zine, wrote a letter, and have all this correspondence from my teenage years. And yeah, so it just it was an example of that, like reading his story and what it's like to do that. And I still I really admire people that take a big chance and want to get involved so bad that they it becomes their career, which is
reading that book, I loved it. I kept seeing all these parallels between like Sorry State and Toxic Shock. I kept seeing myself in it so much, how it was like they had like a label and a store and a distro, and they were like kind of trying to keep all of these balls in the air, and they're constantly sort of like having to refigure out what they are and what they do to just try to keep the whole thing moving. I'm like, man, this is like so my life, I really, really connected with that sort of aspect of their story. And then like, when his wife gets sick and stuff, and I don't know, it was really like poignant for me, it was sort of like when I read Bob Sarin's book, I read that like a few years after like going through divorce, and he like talks about in that book, and I'm just like, oh man, because these people are all like a few years older than me. They're kind of like my punk elders. So, it's nice to get a little bit of wisdom, from people when they're sort of gone through some shit.
And started the shop in early 20s.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. Up until 2014, so 34 years, something like that.
It's a long fucking time.
That's so cool. And but yeah, one thing I read in the book about Eric Wood is like he was saying, like towards the end of the band, he was like kind of getting sick of the bass solos, which I was like, when you listen to it, I'm like, he's such a feature, he's such a phenomenal, it adds so much. But there's a lot more to musicians and like what they I can imagine if it's not a good fit and somebody's going in a different direction, like as good as they might be. So but yeah, I haven't read through the whole book, so I'm looking forward to some Raw Power tour stories. And it goes all the way up until
That's funny. When I see Toxic Shock, the first band I think of is Raw Power. Every time. I don't know why that is, but
it's funny. He called them when they first came over and was like, I need to plug into this. Like, they were so amazing.
Raw Power's the first band I think of too, even though they did COC, Eye for an Eye.
Why is that? It's weird, right? I don't know why that is, but maybe I think for me it maybe goes back to the old Maximum Rock and Roll ads and seeing like Raw Power and Toxic Shock.
Yeah, it's pretty diverse. Dago abortions and some weird wild stuff.
Nice. That's a great pick.
Yeah.
All right. Daniel, what's your first pick?
All right. Well, my first one. This is probably my favorite record that I've gotten in the past few months. And I got it because so I got to go to Finland this summer, and we met this guy Marku, who had this crazy record collection, and like he's showing me shit all night, or all of us stuff, and I was adding it to my want list, and I've slowly been sort of finding things here and there, and this is one of the things I was really looking for and finally found. It's this compilation called Hilsa L. I don't know how you would pronounce it, Hilsa LP, because it basically there was this zine in Finland called Hilsa, and I guess the person who did the zine put together this compilation, and it's basically like all of the like great early Finnish punk bands are on here, like Apu Normali, Code 63, Briard, Razzia, Vavi, Upavis, Loose Brick, Kola Kesta. Like the track listing is completely like nuts, and it's like it's just a really, really good record. It's the kind of thing like I just put on and like play it over and over again. And another reason I was really excited to get it, when we played in Tampere, where we met Marku, or no, not Turku, sorry, not Tampere. What was I just saying? Man, I'm like losing my train of thought. Yeah, we played with Tikuri.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, everybody loves Tikuri.
Everyone loves Tikuri.
But one of the things Marku told me, he was like, Tikuri has this like really particular aesthetic. Like it's all these like sort of line drawings and like cool like handwritten fonts and stuff. And he was saying that that's actually really influenced by the zine Hilsa.
Okay.
And so when I finally got this LP, it came with the zine. So like the LP came with the zine Hilsa, and there's like all these little like illustrations of every song. And when you see it, you can totally see like how influential this would have been on like the Tikuri aesthetic. It's like all these
awesome
letters and little line drawings and like sort of mixed with like classic cut and paste punk stuff. So and like I love the aesthetic of the Tikuri stuff. That's like one of the things that kind of blew my mind and made me so excited about. So to see this thing that I didn't really like know existed, and it shed all this light on a band that I really liked too. And and there's this awesome compilation full of really good songs. One of them, there's a bunch of covers on here, which is like kind of a thing with Finnish records. It seems like particularly early punk ones, like they did a lot of covers of like classic punk bands. And my favorite one is Razzia. They cover Breakdown by the Buzzcocks, but they do it in Finnish. And like, I guess the word for breakdown is iho huji enia. And it has so many more syllables than breakdown. So they really like had this whole different melody to the song to fit in all of those syllables. And it just like makes it into a whole new song that's like somehow even catchier.
Wow.
I don't know. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of crossover with that comp and like, blood killed by Finland, bloodstains across Finland, or
I mean, lots of the same bands. I haven't listened to that. I have that in there.
I haven't listened to it either. Yeah.
Yeah, I know like Kola Kesta's on there and Sensori, I want to say.
Okay.
And both of them are on here. It's really like I can't think of any big names from kind of 70s Finnish punk that aren't on this.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it's all exclusive tracks too. Yeah.
Man, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, S.H.I.T reissued it. So like this is the original one. I don't think the S.H.I.T one came with the zine, unfortunately.
I was actually going to ask. Did S.H.I.T reissue that? Because it sounds like something they would do, and they have. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, amazing! I've got to field a couple of questions. Direct Control discography CD.
I don't know about a discography CD, but there may be some Direct Control things on Sorry State. We've been kind of
there you go
bouncing around that idea.
There you go. And then Tony, did Tikuri say anything about trying to come to the States?
They did actually.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we talked to them about that. I think they very much want to come to the States. So yeah, and they were great live. Like just singing along at the top of my lungs and like
Didn't know any of the words.
no, not at all. But you know all the melodies, you know. They're because I've just burned a hole through that LP. Yeah.
Yeah, they came here too, and Tony was going to come, but he couldn't make it. But I know, weekday, old man syndrome.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, it
What
must
do
be
you-
fun.
All right, Dave, what's your first pick?
Let me see what I got here. All right. So I suppose I should probably pick something from up here in the Great White North. I haven't listened to this in a little while, and I put it on the other day. I forgot how just absolutely psycho and unhinged sounding it is, and it's just like not in a, I guess, weirdo, like insane kind of way, but just like the recording is so garbled and there's just so many tracks on it, and it's just like excellent hardcore record. I'm of course talking about from Meaford, Ontario.
Oh,
Decent hardcore. So yeah, it's so this is the first press with the sleeve with the band members on it. So there was a second press that had like the Scarecrow on it, but I'm pretty sure these guys released this themselves on their Death Enema records. Yeah, I think this was one of the only records, one of the only Canadian records that I think Pusshead put on his top 100 hardcore records of the 80s.
Wow.
And yeah, it's got like, fuck, I think there's like 12 songs on here or something. But I can't remember what caused me to just like pull it out and put it on. But once I put it on the turntable, like I think I listened to it like 3 times in a row just because it is just so blown out. They've got 2 guitar players and it's just so gurgle and muffled. And anyways, it's just like punk in the best kind of way, because it's like Meaford, Ontario is like the sticks in like Ontario. And you've got somebody told me that these guys used to go around town and they would try to egg on cops to like chase them because they had nothing else to do. So they would just like, you know, come get us and like start like running away from them, try to egg the cops on. But yeah, and there's one song on here where it's just, there's almost like no drums on it, and it's just the 2 guitars and the bass and the vocals, and it's like, I can't compare it to any other sort of like 80s hardcore track because it's just like that unique. Yeah, just excellent record. Yeah, that's about all I can say about that.
They came to Europe for a tour back then, or maybe after that had been put out. My friend's band, I put out a record with this band called Nessun Dorma, and they went on a whole European tour with Sons of Ishmael, and they said it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
They had an LP and I think another 7-inch that came out after this, and I don't think either of those hold a candle to this first record. It's just kind of one of those things where it's, you know, whatever they captured on this was, you know, something very special. Yeah, I feel like I revisited the LP like even as soon as like 6 months ago, and it just, you know, it just still didn't grab me. I think it's the LP's a little bit better than the second 7-inch,
Okay.
but still like this is kind of like, this is like the record for them. I still got to say, I think it's 85. I could be wrong. Yeah, we're going to say 85.
Wasn't the LP released in the UK by Children of the Revolution?
No, it wasn't COR. But I think
Manic Ears, maybe. Oh, let us know in the comments. I really thought that like that Sons of Ishmael record had been released in the UK.
I'm pretty sure you're right. I'm pretty sure it was either a UK or European label. Like I don't think it was a Canadian label. But
Right.
which one specifically, I don't know. I think Woody's in the chat there. Woody, dig it out.
Google it.
Oh.
Yeah, because I just remember that. I think that's why they came to Europe, because they had the LP out and they were touring and stuff in Europe around like late 80s, I think, maybe early 90s.
Yeah. I feel like the LP might be like sometime between maybe 87 and 89, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was hoping that what I said was true, because I had a nice tie-in to my next pick. So let's just say it's true for the time being until then, until we're proved wrong. Right, so Bristol, I thought that Sons of Ishmael had been released on Children of the Revolution, the Bristol, famous Bristol label. And I was going to talk about Bristol anyway. We already sort of mentioned Chaos UK once, but when we think of like Bristol and also like Riot City Records, what bands like immediately kind of come to mind? There's a few that immediately come to mind.
Like Amoebics.
Yeah. Chaos UK, Disorder, and maybe Vice Squad is another one that. But there's so many like classics on Riot City. But we're talking about like Bristol, bands from Bristol, and this band was on Riot City, and they were from Bristol. Manicheers. I thanks, Woody. Good.
There you go.
My little tie-in sounds strong. There you go.
See, Woody's in Ontario. He's got boots on the ground, right?
There you go.
He's digging into those deep facts.
Nice. Manicheers like Bristol label, but this is like early Bristol punk or hardcore, which really most people think Chaos UK and Disorder, right? When we think of like early Bristol hardcore.
Is that the Garbage Man?
It is the Garbage Man.
Okay.
Nice, good ears.
Yeah. I can hear him from here.
Nice. I should sample that and have you give me an idea. I'm gonna anyway. I'm talking about this other Bristol band that were on Riot City that is maybe underrated and overlooked. And thanks to Mark at Generation Records, their one LP is now available for easy access. I'm talking about the Undead, not the Bobby Steele Undead, but the Bristol UK Undead. Look at that. This is their Soul LP, The Killing of Reality. He's put on their 2 7-inches on Riot City and the Riot Assembly compilation track as well. The singles are good, but for me, the LP is like it's a classic. It doesn't sound like anything else on Riot City. It doesn't sound like Chaos UK or Disorder, and it also doesn't sound like Vice Squad or any of the other sort of. It doesn't sound like, you know what? I knew I'd like flake on this, so I dug out my Riot City, like single collection, so I could remember the names of the bands. Court Martial doesn't sound like Court Martial. Doesn't sound like Celtic Discord. Doesn't sound like the Abrasive Wheels. This is like mid-tempo, hard punk, which is kind of almost post-punk, but it isn't, with an amazing drummer that I've been told that I shouldn't say this, with the tribal drums. I've been told that the term tribal drums is basically meaningless and stupid, from a friend who worked and lived in Kenya for many years, and he said when white people say like tribal drums, what are they talking about? Like, let's just like say rolling toms, right? Rolling toms, like rolling toms, rolling toms, heavy rolling toms, mid-paced. It's kind of okay. I was kind of sort of trying to compare it to something, and the best thing I can come up with is Lords of the New Church, first LP, the song Portobello. Anybody knows that song? It's like very hard hitting with the rolling drums, and that came out actually not long before this record came out. So taking a wild stab in the dark and saying that they were quite into Lords of the New Church, and maybe particularly that song. But this is it's a classic in my opinion. Very sort of over.
I'm disappointed because I was actually in a record store in Kalamazoo, Michigan, like a few months ago, and they had that on the wall.
The original?
And I was on an original. I was on the fence about getting it, and I fucking passed on it, and now I'm
You're all sad now.
But
But
well, I mean, it's yeah.
It's funny though. It is tricky because it's neither, like I said, it's neither Chaos UK or it's not that, and it's not super poppy either. It's kind of right down the middle, but it's so good. I even did the maximum rock and roll tests. What's the maximum rock? I looked up the review that they got when it came out, and it got a great review. In fact, Jeff Bale said some of the songs are mini masterpieces. Were his words that he used back in '83 or whatever. But
I think I have a single from them. It's called "It's Corruption."
that's it. That's like the first 7-inch.
Okay.
That's more raw, but it still has a bit of that rolling drums thing going on. This is like a more polished and like better songwriting and more developed.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that. You said it's reissued on Generation
Records, yeah. Because Mark was on a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm reissuing something on Riot City." And he's like, "Can you guess what it is?" And of course, I couldn't guess.
Yeah,
like, it's the Undead. I was like, "Oh man, the Undead! Like that's a good one." It has been reissued actually before. This is the second time it's been reissued, but yeah, nice. If you like Bristol punk and Riot City Records and Lords of the New Church and Rolling Toms.
Yeah, I have that It's Corruption single that Daniel mentioned. Like it's such a good song. So good.
I mean, imagine that, but like even better, like a little bit sort of like better. You know what? It's one of the things. Some people might prefer the singles to the LP. I was talking to Mark, and I was like, I'm going to say that I like the LP like better than the singles, and I thought he would say, well, but he was like, yeah, me too. I prefer the LP to the singles, but yeah, that's a good song though. It's on here as well, so
nice.
The entire discography, double LP. Check it out, The Undead.
I think there was another band who used that same image on their record cover.
Oh, really?
It sort of looks like, was it Crimson Curse or what is it called?
Yeah, it's just something with it. I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue.
They'll come out later, I'm sure. Let us know in the comments. What does this look like? I thought you were going to say there's another band called The Undead, which is like that's Bobby Steele from the Misfits. Undead. I like this band.
There's one New York Undead single that's really good, and then I think they have a bunch of records. Everything else I've heard is not that good. Yeah.
Check it out. Good work, Mark from My Generation Records. All right, Derik.
So, in the spirit of Dave's, early mid '80s classic Great White North, I'm going to represent Philly from this. This is a compilation from '83 called "Get Off My Back." We're doing it ourselves, so maybe it should be, get off our backs, but either way, what a great representation of the early '80s Philly hardcore scene.
Look at that.
And it's got some bands that you might be familiar with: Why Die, McRad, like kind of early skate thrash, Chuck Treese, FOD, who are still around, right? And what's funny, speaking of Eric Wood, I saw them, one of the first times I saw them was with Menace the Bastard in Philly.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of this really crudely drawn stuff. I like these figures here. I like to think that like the kid in high school who was a decent artist drew that on their, Trapper Keeper or something. But it comes with this pretty beat up, but comes with this really cool. You don't see this anymore. Maybe because it's a wasted packaging. But it's just one giant. If you could see this whole thing, let me do it this way. Like 4 panels. I really like this. And yeah, it's just all one color planet. But yeah, it's a really cool kind of take on that scene. And this dude Chuck Meehan from Why Die, who's still around, wonderful guy, goes to a lot of shows, supports the local scene a lot. He was on this comp, and I asked him a bit about it. And he was saying there's this guy, kind of like Bill Sassenberger. This guy was a pioneering DJ at WXPN in Philly, which is a station that's been around for almost 80 years. And Oh yeah, Tony. No, they're still incredible.
Yeah, they are. You know, they've got some like newer records. They're all great as well. All their newer records are great too. You know, the FOD records. They're all great.
There's some of my favorite tracks on here. And Chuck was saying there was this guy. Let me make sure I have his name right. I wrote this down. Who's known as Eddie Hacksaw. He was a DJ back then, and he, did all the legwork for this comp. Got everyone together. He was kind of the guy in the local scene, and his show was like mandatory listening. So also an amazing thing, like when you're a DJ and you support the local scene, especially when it's like brand new like that in the early 80s. And I guess it kind of reminds me of that I think Jordan posted about this, that like Fast and Loud Radio, the Middle of America comp from 83, 84.
Chicago one? You know what? That was so amazing. Like literally a week after he talked about it, I found a copy used in Disc Union.
Oh shit.
And I've got all the Chicago's guys were like, Jesus Christ, I've been looking for that for like years. Walked down to Disc Union and there it is, right at the front, like staring me in the face. It was like, wow.
Yeah. And there's a lot of bands I discovered from this comp, like the unfortunately named Autistic Behavior I was familiar with, but their tracks on here are so sick. Ruin, fantastic. Rad, and who is it? Informed Sources. Have you ever heard of these bands? But yeah, like, so I'm gonna definitely go a little deeper since I discovered this, but Philly's my adopted city, so it's really cool to get like a history lesson and talk to some people who were around back then and did shows at some wild spaces. And Why Die are still playing. Still, I don't know if any of you heard this, but there was something that this guy Joseph Gervaisi in Philly, who's probably in his mid-50s now, did this project called Loud Fast Philly. So if you look that up, there's interviews with people from the punk scene from the 80s till today. He did it. It was about 10 years ago. So Loud Fast Philly. There's an interview with Chuck from Why Die, with Jackal the singer. And yeah, that's another thing back then. It was a really diverse scene too. Like after bands, a lot of black members in Philly. Like, so just a really cool scene from back then and I think still in Philly, it's fortunately like a really diverse scene. So yeah, this is a really special comp, and it's not super hard to find. And yeah,
is
just
that
really cool.
Is that the comp that has the Why Die tracks? I think ones I Killed My Family.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Those aren't on anything else because they didn't really do much.
Yeah, well, they're not on the 7-inch. There's that, and what's the one? Enemy for Life. Yeah, I feel like that's exclusive to that too. Because like I don't have that comp. I have the 7-inch, and I remember, there's a couple tracks that were on the compilation CD that came out that I was like, oh yeah, those all must be on the Philly comp.
Yeah.
It's
really awesome. So there's like drawings of like little spaces, like the hot club side. So yeah, I just love it. It's so DIY and just in that spirit. And that dude Eddie Hacksaw, like kind of like Bill Sassenberger, like that kind of figure, really important in the scene back then. So yeah, very cool.
Nice.
Right.
I love FOD, Flag of Democracy. Such a good band.
Yes.
Yeah, I always remember my copy of that comp came in my best record score of all time. It was like the first time I ever went to a record fair. The first table I walked up to, this guy had like 3 boxes of like 80s hardcore, and everything was like priced between like $2 and $5. And it's like, I got like the Wretched LP and like Record Collectors or Pretentious Assholes on red vinyl, and like just all of these records. I think he was from Philly, so there was like there was that, and I mean, not that there are a lot of Philly records, but whenever I see that comp, I always think of that. Like,
wow,
nice.
It's really good. It's really listenable. It's like 75% of it is fantastic, and the rest is pretty wacky and fun.
That's the thing with comps. I love comps, but it's like we've talked about this before. Like I don't tend to pull them out as much as I should. I buy them all the time, and then I don't revisit them as often as I should. I don't know why, but very important. Like the compilation, especially
some of them, you can the good ones you can just leave on and
Right.
learn a lot and discover a lot. And
Yeah.
it's a great representation.
Yeah, I've been really feeling comps lately, actually.
Nice.
I'm listening to them a lot. Like, I have another one in my stack here.
Cool. Maybe it'll give me a kick up the ass to
Me too.
my more.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel, what's your next pick?
Well, yeah, I'll keep them in order. I had this one I was hoping I could pose along with a topic of conversation, and that is the beater copy of a record. How do you guys feel about a beater?
I'm all about it. Well,
man,
it's
I love a beater. And I'll tell you, like, one of my weaknesses, like, you're going to get my money, is if you have like a beater sleeve and good vinyl. I'm like, oh man, I'll take home that little beauty and love it.
Yeah.
And like, I almost like prefer that to a really nice copy of a record, because I have a few records that are like rare and really nice, and I'm almost like scared of them. Like you want to like handle them with gloves or something. But the one that's my pick is this copy of Introducing the Sonics.
Look at that.
And
Nice.
yeah, it clearly stuck to another record at some point and got peeled off. But the vinyl is in great shape, and it's 100% original.
Wow.
And man, it like, it sort of got, I was thinking about like why I like buying like old records, and I like when you can just kind of like feel the like history in it, and like old records, they just like sound different. They always sound so much more like direct or something to me. And the vinyl just like screams, which is just like perfect for this kind of music. It sounds incredible. And I like that it's like lived in, and you wonder like, where did was it in a flood or something? Like what happened to it? And I actually got this copy in kind of like not a weird thing. I got a call about this collection in like rural Northwestern Virginia. And the guy had like 6,000 records or something, and he let me cherry pick them. And it was like, I'm not really much of like a digger. I don't like going through piles of junk. I kind of like don't have the patience for it. But this was like just enough cool stuff in there. Like every sort of 15 or 20 records, you see something cool. And this was in that. And I was just like, oh, I'm definitely keeping it for myself. Like, maybe we could put like 30 or $50 or something on this in the store. But I feel like I will get a lot more enjoyment out of that. So, yeah. So how y'all feel about the beaters?
You know what? I've got like a beta adjacent. I like the beta adjacent, which is like the radio station copy.
Oh, love a radio station copy. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that Chicago comp that was up there belonged to a radio station in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oh.
And how did it end up in Osaka, Japan? I don't know. And it's got, of course, they've written the name of the radio station in big letters on the front of the cover. So it was only like 500 yen. You turn it over and it's got little notes. It's funny. It's like Naked Reagan. I don't know. Definitely play this one, like, and then like another song's up. It's okay. And it's just funny, like written in pen, and it's like, it just, you can think, God, who DJ'd this? Yeah. What does the radio station look like? Like, and then the funny thing is, I bought like a Poison Girls, the 5th Poison Girls record yesterday. Because I didn't have it, man. And I turned it over, and it had the Oshkosh radio station stamp on the back. So I'm like, Jesus,
they must have bought the library? Yeah.
I know. So did some ex-Oshkosh person like move to Osaka recently and like off, or is there like a disc union buyer in Wisconsin right now who is like?
I've heard Disc Union has U.S. buyers.
Yes,
right?
they have. Yes, they do. They do. Yeah. So maybe there's a buyer like in Oshkosh right now, like hoovering everything up and like sending it back here. I don't know. Betas exist in Japan. Like, well, Japanese beta is kind of like American mint, right? I don't know.
True.
Yeah, you can get betas like in the 100 yen bins. That's where you would find your. Yeah, you just said it. Tony just said it. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Oh, speaking of radio copies, years ago, I bought a big stack of records of radio station copies on Discogs, and they all showed up, and they're all from the University of Virginia, like college radio station library, and it was all like 80s punk records. And I was thinking about how like Stephen Malkmus from Pavement went to the University of Virginia, and I think had a show on the radio show. And I was just like, I wonder if Stephen Malkmus DJ'd this like maggot sandwich 7-inch, you know.
I think my favorite beat, I don't have it here, but it's that T-Rex record where Mark Bolan's on. It's like a silhouette of him when he's holding his guitar like that, and it's like one of the most famous T-Rex records. But like my copy, it's like you can't even see him. It's like the cover's all like fucked up. It's just like got like just lots of holes, so you can barely see like the silhouette. But it's like I kind of thought at first that's what it looked like, and then I ended up seeing some like real copies, and I was like, oh no, it doesn't look like that at all. But I haven't upgraded it. I just love it the way it is. The vinyls sounds great. So
man, I wish I had grabbed it, but I just remembered my copy of the Jam, This Is the Modern World, says this record sucks.
Amazing.
Oh,
that person was wrong though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Disc Union. We could talk about Disc Union for a long time. James, who is here in the chat, yeah, Disc Union is a hot topic. I love Disc Union. It's fun. Yeah.
How's that record smell? Like an old library?
I don't know. You would think it would smell musty, but
that's usually water damage. Maybe that's just like stickiness. That's different.
Yeah, maybe it's just aired out. It was in a barn when I got it.
See, the nice thing about those old like these presses though is like you could drive a fucking truck over that thing, and I'm sure it would still play.
No one has.
Amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I gave it a good cleaning. It sounds amazing.
What about like over there, like the tobacco smell? How are people about like that? Because in Japan, you know what it's like, right? Small rooms, a lot of smokers. So you'll often see tobacco smells written on the thing. I have all of my like old Crow records all like smell very strongly of tobacco, but I don't really mind. But
yeah, last night I was working at the store and I'd flip through a section and get a whiff of tobacco every once in a while.
Beautiful. The Sonics. I've only got like some of the sort of budget cheapo like. There's so many of them, right? The best of the Sonics or whatever. But that must sound amazing. All right, Dave, what's your next pick?
Well, I guess I gotta follow up this topic of beaters for sure. I kind of looked over, and the record that's staring at me is I don't know. I bought this when I was a teenager off a guy, and I found out that he had a copy of it, and I said, "Oh fuck, I really need that." He said, "Okay, well, I'll sell it to you." I said, "Well, what's the condition of it?" He said, "Oh, it's mint. It's dead mint. Yeah, don't worry about it." Like some fucking train hopper guy. And I was just like, all right, I trust your judgment. Anyways, he brought it to the show, showed it to me. I was like, all right, good enough. You know, I'll still take it. And truth be told, I'm kind of surprised. I have not seen, I think in the last like 20 years, I might have seen one other copy of this, and I probably should have bought it. But again, to Daniel's point, I do love a beater. So this has got some water damage and a little bit of staining and stuff. But I mean, for the record, it's kind of fitting. But this is one that I've been kind of, I don't know. I put this on like a couple weeks ago, and it's just been, I'm kind of surprised that more people don't talk about this record. And that is, of course, Suicidal Super Trolleys.
Nice.
Shut up and drink. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I will.
Fine.
So I mean, this is like when they get going on this record, I mean, it's just so fucking good. Like, you know, I could probably do without the Circle Jerks cover. I mean, it's fine, but it's, you know, when you compare it to the other songs, it's, you know, whatever. But like Burn the Flag and Death of the Press and Pro-Choice, like just so fucking good. Like, and it's a different lineup on the A side from the B side, and the recordings are different as well. So, but I think they're both from. Okay, so the A side's from 93, the B side's from like 95, but it's just like you listen to the A side and you're like, oh, this is fucking great. Like the guitar just sounds so raunchy, and the playing on it, it's just like for a bunch of drunk punks, like they are just fucking pounding the shit out of their instruments. Like it's awesome, and you know, real fast, real fucking good. You know, I mean, with an album like Shut Up and Drink, you're gonna get some, you know, songs about beer, how they like their beer. Beer is good, you know, have a beer, all these sorts of things. But you know, all the other songs in between, like the lyrics for them are pretty damn good. But yeah, you flip it over to the B side, and somehow from the A side, which already sounds raunchy, they managed to make it sound even fucking raunchier on the B side. So yeah, I mean, their first 7-inch, I think it's Greetings from London. Like there was like me and a couple of my friends for like many years debated on whether or not it actually existed, because all of us had heard about it, but I mean, none of us ever had seen a copy or had ever found a copy. Anyway, so I managed to get a copy from Chris Cooter over in, over
the man himself.
Yes, exactly. So I think I got my copy from him, and that was the only copy of that I've ever seen. And usually when I, you know, show people that, they're like, oh, fuck, I've never even seen a copy of that, which kind of seems strange because I never really peg it as like a rare record. But again, you know, it's just one of those records that doesn't show up. And even though this was released on Profane Existence, and even this, like I said, you know, all the time that I spend digging in record stores and stuff, I think I've only ever come across one other copy.
It's one of those records that it's like, you'll be surprised how many people are, shit, I fucking regret selling that because I can never find it. I can never get it back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, it's what's it called? I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't gotten a reissue, but again, it's one of those records that, you know, the people that know it really, really like it. But I feel like there's a whole lot of people that like haven't really discovered it or don't really know it. So
I feel like that record was a real sort of like, let's bring like the punk back into sort of hardcore. And Chaos UK were doing it as well, kind of thing. You know, it's like everything's too metal or too funky or whatever. Let's bring it back to punk, you know, punk. And yeah, but it's a great record, absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, anyways, but that copy there, I mean, it plays great. But like I said, the sleeves got water damage. There's fucking hairlines all over the vinyl and everything, you know, pops and clicks and everything. But, you know, you don't want a pristine copy of Shut Up and Drink.
That would be wrong. Yeah.
It has to be extremely partied, borderline destroyed. You know, it's almost saddened that there's not a seam split across the whole thing. But, you know.
It looks pretty good when you held
years ago. What's that?
When you held it up, it looks quite nice.
Oh, well, that's good. You know,
presents as BG Plus.
That's right.
The name of the band always reminds me of something. It's like when Green Day on their first UK tour, they stayed in our like little squat. One night we're out drinking, and I put Billy Joel in a supermarket trolley cart and pushed him down a big hill. And when I see the name of that band, it always reminds me of that. Billy Joel going down the hill in a shopping trolley.
Awesome.
I was wondering, like, it didn't happen, but I was like, did that story kind of get around? But I guess, like in London, that's what people did. They went to the pub and like would get in the trolleys and like it's like a taxi, you know. You'd get in the trolley and ride home in the shopping trolley right after.
There you go.
Going to the pub.
When I was in London, I felt like they had a little corral, so you couldn't get the trolley out of the thing. You had to like pick up your groceries just outside the door.
Back in 1993, different world, Daniel, different world.
Probably your fault. Yeah. Billy Joe's not going to die on our watch.
Great record. If you like punk, Drinking and punk. What's not to love? Or I got to compose myself for my next pick because I really quite haven't figured out what I'm going to say about this record. Everyone knows that I love like the singles collection records. Big fan. This one I've been waiting for like decades for this to come out, and it's been a long time coming. It finally came out. This band is probably like the first punk band that I was very obsessed with. I used to write to the main member, going back to what Derik was saying about like writing letters and stuff. I used to write to the main member of this band, and I used to get like these huge long letters back with artwork and tapes and blah 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 blah. Anyway, this band has finally like got their singles collection out, and I couldn't be happier. It wasn't easy to get a copy. I'll tell you how I got mine in a minute, but I'm talking about a band that is almost impossible to describe. Hopefully, at least one or two of you can help me on this. I'm talking about the Apostles.
Huh, that's funny.
And there can be no Spectators. It's like their singles collection. But it's like their first single, their second single, their third single. The fourth single is not on here because the fourth single is like basically like an Andy Martin thing that he did kind of by himself and has this kind of screwdriverish lyrics and stuff on it. And then they came back with the fifth record. So this is like the first, second,
fifth record.
That's yes.
I was just listening to this and I was thinking about bringing it as one of my picks.
But, oh wow, great. Help me out here. Yeah, this is like the singles collection. It came out on Grow Your Own Records, which is that band Anthrax, not that Anthrax, the UK Anthrax. It's someone from their label. But how do you try and describe the Apostles' music? To me, I was obsessed by this band because they sound like nothing like anything that I'd ever heard before. And some of their influences I'd never heard before either. Like later I found out that, Andy Martin was a big Groundhogs fan. Mm. I'd never heard the Groundhogs. I'd never heard any of like the sort of experimental music that they were into. I don't think I'd even heard like ATV at that point because they really like ATV too, which ATV are also very kind of experimental band as well as they kind of moved forward. But it's lo-fi. Are we listening to some lo-fi earlier on the show? It's very low, very, very lo-fi. Kind of they're playing like above their capabilities, except Chris Lowe, the drumming is amazing. And he was like, 13, 14, 15 years old. This little Scottish lad who'd come down to London, and he was in like Political Asylum and Part 1 later. But the drumming is like, they always did this. The Apostles drum, the drums are very in the distance on on the Apostles records. But it kind of works. It works for them, I think. But the Rolling Toms. I mean, Chris Lowe is the king of the Rolling Toms. I mean, the drumming is amazing, but nobody really kind of pays attention to the drumming, I think, because like Andy Martin's vocals and the like crazy guitar playing, he's like playing these crazy solos, that come out of the speakers at you, and very weird. Like, there's nothing like conventional about any of their songs.
Yeah,
nothing. I mean, every now and again you'll kind of get a little bit of a D beat or something like that, but apart from that, there's nothing to sort of grab onto. It's very unfamiliar, but yet it's so amazing. It's so powerful. And to me, the Apostles is like Andy Martin and Dave Fanning. Really, it was their band. But I don't really like the sort of Dave Martin, the Dave Fanning stuff so much. He sings sometimes, right? Dave Fanning sings on some songs. He's sort of got a more like typical anarcho-punk kind of a vocal, like Amiga Tribe or The Mob. It's fine, but to me, the Apostles equals Andy Martin and his vocals. It's like you can feel like the inner demons like pouring out of him, like on every song. And it's unlike any other punk that I've heard either then or even up to this day. Nothing like it at all. So it's very hard to talk about the Apostles, but incredible group. No one's even ever sort of come close to what they did, I think.
How old were you when you first heard them?
I would have been about 18 when I first heard the Apostles. So, because the first EP is from '85, so I was born in '67. But yeah, I remember like I was obsessed with them, and a couple of my friends were obsessed with them. I used to write to Andy Martin; he would send me the tapes, and all that kind of thing. And yeah, just one of a kind band, cannot be replicated.
Did you say there was a story about how you got your copy?
Yeah, oh, it's not that interesting, but Chris Lowe, the drum, he came to Japan. He was in Japan, and but very rural. He was like, I'm just going to be in rural Japan for like a few weeks, and he's like, I need that Gizm like DVD that came out recently, and he's like, I've got like a couple of the Apostles records on their way coming to me in rural Japan, and he got that, and we literally got it down to like the final day that he was here. His copy of the Gizm DVD arrived that I sent him, and this arrived like, I mean, we cut it like right down to the wire with this little trade in Japan. So that's how I got my copy direct from Chris. Yeah, what incredible!
Yeah, I really want.
Oh no, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I was just gonna say I want that LP, and I have a bunch of their singles, and I really wonder how it would, because their records individually are a lot to process. Like sort of sitting through all of them in one go seems like it could be daunting.
To me, it's fine, and I'm like, it's amazing actually, because I only ever owned those records when I had like the worst record player and speakers known to, so I was used to listening to them either like that or on dubbed tapes. So having this, as an adult listening to it on quite a good mid-fi system, you know what? I don't care. Either way is fine with me. Either way, it's fine. This band doesn't really need the sort of hi-fi treatment. They sound just as good on a little beatbox as they do on a nice record player. But it's so nice to have these like all in one place. Finally.
Yeah, they're one of those bands that always kind of passed me by. I don't know if I've ever really had a chance to check out any of those singles. So who put out the LP, Mike?
Grow Your Own Records, which is
okay.
Grow Your Own, which is one of the guys from the band Anthrax, like I said. But I can't imagine like just suddenly freshly getting into this band in the modern day. I don't know, like how it would sound to these days.
I'll let you know.
Let us know. Let us know, because it's not an easy band to get into. And actually, the tapes that they did are even very left field experimental stuff. But actually, I like the LPs. Actually, like some of my favorite Apostles stuff is on the LPs, like How Much Longer and Lives and Times of the Apostles and Punk Obituary, which was taken from the Groundhogs blues obituary, right? So, yeah, what an amazing band.
Nice.
And impossible to describe their music because you can't really. You just have to go and listen to them.
That rules to discover something that affects you like that at 18.
18, yeah, it would have been. Let me think, 67. Actually, yes, 17, maybe even younger. Actually, we had one of the singles me and my friend had when we lived in Carlisle. We had that one single. We just played it to death. Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
This is a record. I was in Bar, Italy last month for my 50th birthday. My wife Christine planned this trip, and it was a combination for my birthday and my mom's side of the family's from Bar, Italy. A lot of traced it back. I did a lot of research and some the Bar in Naples around southern Italy, so it was really cool to check that out. And there's a record store called New Records in Bar, really tiny, pretty much the only game in town, and maybe a couple bands from that town, but and I wanted to try to find something, either a local band or something like that, and I couldn't find anything new, but there was a small Italian prog section, and I actually messaged Mike because there was something about this record that struck me, and I wanted to take a chance on it, and he wasn't familiar. So it came out in 71. This copy was on RCA Italiana in a few years ago, in 22. So the band's called The Trip.
Look at that.
Kurante, which is you heard of it? Oh, I thought you said
I was
yeah,
cool.
and
I was just blown away by just the look of it.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like Kurante. It's kind of the Italian name for the boatman, the ferryman, the river Styx kind of name. And so this band, they are originally from England. I've discovered they moved to Italy a year after they formed in like 67, 68. And one of the original members, Richie fucking Blackmore.
No.
Young Richie Blackmore. He was like 21 or something. So
Wow.
it's I'll show you the record. It's like a limited number release, a very pretty yellow. You know this really well. He's holding this sign. The trip reminds me of like Monty Python. It looks a little like that, but it is wild. Like it's a lot of prog from that era. They're really kind of precious about their musicianship. Like this is intense and kind of loose. Like there's some Emerson, Lake and Palmer, like in the Hammond organs. Like there's that sound, but it's the guitars and the keyboards are locked in. But the drummer, when they moved to Italy, they got a couple Italian members. This guy Pino, the drummer, what's his name? I wrote it down. Sinone, and double bass, which is super rare at the time. Like I don't know who else, Ginger Baker maybe. So just this really hectic, loose, and he's rushing the whole time, which adds this kind of off-kilter, imbalanced, chaotic feel. So for a prog band from 71, it's really heavy, really nutty, and the vocals are kind of somewhere between Dio and Robert Plant. Like really, really, really good, really intense. So like I said, there's some elements of what you might imagine from that era, from that British band. And apparently prog was so big in Italy, a number of bands relocated there.
Huge prog scene in Italy in early 70s. Massive.
Yeah. And what do you call it? So I heard their album after this got to be a little more mainstream, a little more subdued, but this one's really intense. And it does what does remind me of ELP is, have you ever seen the Isle of Wight documentary, that concert footage?
Like, he's got the fucking
yeah. And like is they're just so aggressive,
right? And I always get annoyed on these punk documentaries when they sort of say, well, punk came along and killed Emerson. Have you seen like what Emerson, Lake and Palmer were doing? They're wild boys.
yeah. They were serious, yeah. I think even at the time, like they weren't into drugs, like they were just more, but yeah, I'm really glad I took a chance on this because it's really wild and, kind of, a little unhinged for prog for that.
A lot of that early Italian stuff is kind of out there. Like they're trying to do stuff like that they're not quite capable of doing, and it's kind of raw recordings. And there's tons of great Italian prog records, tons of them. Yeah, but that one I've never heard of. So that I was kind of, whoa, no, I've never heard of that one. So
yeah, it's almost like it's crazy in the way that and heavy, almost like, this is going to sound weird, but like kind of 90s hardcore bands like Heroin or Behead the Prophet, like manic, nutso energy, but it's held together. It's loosely held together. So it's a little bit of kind of void where the vocals are off and there's something really powerful about how off it is. So the void of prog. but yeah, it was cool to, a little something local and, read into it. I was surprised about Richie Blackmore thing.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
So nice. Yeah, I think it's worth checking out. Like if you're into that stuff at all and you want to take a chance on something that's pretty intense and aggressive and interesting stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good looking record too.
It is good looking.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. I want to check that out.
It's cool.
Revisit the list after that.
Yeah, there's only 2,000 or so records on that list. So yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that.
All right, nice. All right, Daniel, what's your next pick?
Cool. All right. So I'm like I have had all these routines worked out, and now I'm second guessing whether they're a good idea.
Okay, yes.
I'm drawing a bridge from my first pick to this next pick and also putting something out there in the universe. Because like usually I feel like when I'm looking for records, it's best not to tip your hand, you know. But also like you got to send the energy out into the universe. And,
What are you looking for? Come on.
so I was talking about one of my favorite songs on the Hilsa LP comp was by Razzia, and I have their second LP. I have their third LP. I really want their first LP, even if it's a reissue. Like I just literally cannot find a copy. But the link is that the next pick I wanted to talk about was a different band called Razzia.
Oh, yes.
Germany's Razzia. And I've sort of been spending my free time lately exploring a lot of German hardcore. It's not something that I would say I was super knowledgeable about, but I've been finding lots of things. And this is one I've had this record for 25 years or something. And I was listening to it again as I was listening to all this German stuff, and it's just a ripper, man. I was listening to it earlier this week, and I was thinking it kind of reminds me of that Polish band Post Regiment. Like the rhythms are really like precise and intricate, and the playing's really tight, but also melodic, you know, and it's really fast. It's just like a very sort of like unique kind of progressive, but still like totally hardcore record. Yeah, and there's like there are elements of other things. There's some kind of oi-ish moments, some post-punky moments.
German hardcore always has that sort of sing-songy like beer.
It does, yeah. Like you want to take a beer stein and go like that, yeah.
Which stereotype?
Yeah, and a lot of bands like that can get to be too much, you know. But this one, I think they do a good job of sort of like keeping the melody from that, you know, while still like keeping the intensity of hardcore. So, yeah, it's
German classic.
Yeah,
early Inferno as well, kind of similar.
Yeah,
Motek record is amazing too.
You know, I was when I was working out my routines, I was like, should I show a bunch of other records? And the Motek record was one of the ones I was going to show. Yeah,
so many good ones. There's so many good ones, you know, from that early German hardcore. When it's like German punk is kind of moving into like hardcore punk, right? I think that's all.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I like. It still has like the punky songiness and melody of it. Yeah,
that's my favorite stuff too. And then you get the later stuff, like the mid '80s, when it's kind of more US hardcore influenced, like that third wave, you might say, like with all the more American influenced bands. I love all that stuff too. But that's for another day.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, what's your next pick?
All right. So I should probably pick something that's a little bit more current. So I find with a lot of newer records that come out, I mean, when they first come out, they'll really grab you. They might be on the turntable a lot if it's a record that you're really into. But ultimately, some of that stuff, like once you get it filed away, it doesn't always come off the shelf again for another few years. But I can say, like, this record has been, I think, consistently on my turntable on a regular basis since it came out in 2020. So Canada, not really the best Spanish speakers. And as far as the East Coast is concerned, even worse for speaking Spanish. So I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the album name. But the band's name...
Sorry.
Yeah. This record just like
I love that record.
Excellent, you know, I can't remember. Are they Chilean or
it's either Chile or Colombia? Let's know Woody or someone.
You know what? It might be Colombian or I can't remember. I know it's got to be somewhere South America. But basically, I think it was released on a Mexican label, which is Centas Pepe. This record is just like, you know, mid-tempo, like there's melody there, but it's still like the drums sound like a couple of garbage cans. The singer sounds like he's like a drowned alley cat but it's got this. It's like wretchedly punk, but it's still got this nice dark melody to it. And I mean, the sleeve is like, it's this weird, it's almost like brown construction paper that they printed it on. The cover art, I mean, this guy, he's on the cliff with a boulder wrapped around his waist with a chain. He's going to do himself in. And both his good and evil,
Yes.
conscience, they're both pissing on him, and, nothing's going right. And then on the back, he defeated his demons. He's at the bar fucking getting pissed and doing whatever, right? But I mean, this record, it's just like every time I put it on, I have a hard time taking it off, just because it's so I don't know, I can't even put my finger on it.
It's one of those ones that you when you played it, you can't follow it up with anything. It's like nothing kind of quite. You just keep playing that one, right? It's like,
yeah, exactly. And this is a record that I find, like, when I'm packing like mail order and stuff, this is a record that comes out a lot, because usually I'll put it on like 2 or 3 times and I can just kind of flip it over and not get bored of it or whatever. I'm pretty sure they have a new record that just came out.
Oh wow!
I think. Unless it's a new reissue of one of their older records, because I think they had an album or a record or two that came out before this that might have only gotten like a very limited press or like a CD press. But yeah, I know I was kind of intrigued by this, and then I think I saw Daniel. I don't know if this made it. Was this a record of the week at Sorry State at one point when this came out?
I don't remember if it was record of the week, but we definitely hyped it.
I think I remember reading your review, and I was like, okay, I'm intrigued, I'm in. And then so I got like a big Sorry State order. I got this, and this was just like, oh man, it's like I said, since I got it in Peruvian. Okay, cool.
There you go. Thanks. There you go.
But yes, since I got this, like once a month, this comes off the shelf to play, which, I mean, a lot of modern records, as good as they are, I don't know how many of those I can say that about it. So yeah, if you haven't heard this, I mean, it's definitely one to check out.
Punk,
awesome.
Punk as fuck.
Yeah.
Morbo.
Yeah.
Kind of like that band Ignorantes is kind of in the same ballpark, I want to say. A little bit.
Yeah, Ignorantes are more on the hardcore side of things, where I feel like these guys are more on like the straightforward, like mid-tempo kind of punk thing. It's kind of got that, like, that mid-tempo dark punk kind of thing to it, but not the singer that's, look how disturbed I am, like just like, like I said, yeah, exactly, just being kind of raunchy and squawking out vocals, and yeah, it's great. So, nice. Yeah.
All right. Nobody minds? I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do a twofer for my fourth pick. I have a good reasons. Another record came in that I really want to talk about today, and that's going to be my last pick. So this would have been my fourth and fifth. I'm going to put them together for my fourth pick. Everyone's happy about it. But I've been wearing the shirt the whole show. I went to see this band.
I was wondering if you made it to the.
I did. I went to see him. I went to see him as the Rough Kids, and I went to see them as TV Smith from the Adverts backing band, and they were amazing in both of those roles. I haven't done this for a while. I was a bit of a punisher. So after the after the Adverts finished, I sort of was going up to dudes. Totally nailed the Adverts. I think they were okay with it. I think Ethan was okay with it. Yes, I don't know if Paul was as into it, but anyway, I was just a bit like moved about how amazingly they did those Advert songs, and they were amazing as the Rough. Anyway, I was going to show this record, but Daniel's here. He did release this record, but it's the Rough Kids. The state I'm in. What a great record! Well, yeah. It's like 77 punk with like early LA punk as well, stiff records, raw records, but put through sort of like an LA punk. I mean, is it fair to say this is like sort of a record that Dirt Nat Records would have wanted to put out, but didn't? It sounds like
it's not so like as the Marked Many stuff, but it definitely has that sort of broody melody.
Yes.
I remember people would compare them to the Observers. Sometimes.
Okay. You know what this band has though is the two guitars that kind of go digi. That kind of sets them apart, and live as well. It works so well. It's like,
are they North Carolina, Daniel?
LA band, right?
LA.
Okay, cool.
Lots of ex-members. I was actually surprised when I looked up the sort of discography of some of the guys in this band. Like, I'm actually blanking on it now, but they've been in a lot of bands, especially Paul.
Yeah, Paul was in was he in Tear It Up?
Yes, Tear It Up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Paul's from New Jersey, I guess. And he was in tons of bands there. And then on that record, the drummer's John Westbrook from like Knife Fight and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I was kind of like, wow. There's like, I was quite surprised by that. I thought they were younger, maybe, than they are. I don't know.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
They're a little, or Ethan and Tsubasa, I think, are a little older than me, even.
Oh, okay. I've got to mention this. I did get my first ever like public recognition because I showed the Broken Patterns record, I think, on the show, which is Ethan and Paul were in that band, I think, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, after I'd been punishing them about how great they were, they're like, "Are you that guy, the Analog Attack?" I was like, "Yeah, it's me." And I was like, he was like, "Yeah, thanks for talking about the Broken Patterns record. Like nobody ever talks about that record." So yeah, bit embarrassing, but great record, Rough Kids. And I was going to say, I started in Toronto. I'm going to finish in Toronto. That was going to be my closing salvo, but I'm not finishing. I'm finishing this round with this record. 77 Punk from Toronto. How much of it is there? Quite a bit, right? You know, I'm a beginner in this field, so major label LP. It's a great record. The Diodes first.
Ooh, yeah. Nice.
This is a great record, but I don't know like why it's great because like it doesn't really do anything amazing, and the songs are like not that like the songs are like they're okay, and it's like it doesn't have big teeth. You know,
I think, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's not like you're putting that up against the first Teenage LP or something like that. But it's a great record, and they're great.
It is a great record. It's not fair to compare it to other records that came out in this year, and it does kind of sound more like kind of power pop. It's punky power pop. Let's put it that way. The Diodes, self-titled. It's a bit Ramonesy in spots, a little bit Ramonesy in spots, but like nothing very spectacular happens. It just kind of goes along, and yet it finishes. You're like, man, that was a great record. I don't know. It's weird. It's like nothing. Like I said, it's like nothing jumps out at you. It's just kind of like very. You could almost say like pedestrian, like punk rock, but it's great. It's really, really good. Yeah.
I don't even have a copy of that. Honestly, that was one of those records that you used to see it in the bins all the time for like $5. And I can't remember the last time I saw a copy of it, to be honest with you. Yeah. But no, it's awesome.
It is.
I mean, Tired of Waking Up Tired, that's on there, right?
Yes. And the first song is the first track is the Red Rubber Ball, which is the cover.
Oh, right.
That's their hit, right? The cover version of
The Circle.
The Circle.
Yeah.
What a fun record! And the third LP is good too. I bought this and the third LP on the same at the same time. It's amazing.
Yeah, good stuff.
Good meat and potatoes punk, which isn't spectacular, but it's really, really, really good. That was going to be my last pick. The Diodes first LP. There you go. See, that was pretty quick. There you go.
Nice. So this is a very well-known record. I'm gonna get current a little later. This is from '81. So most of you probably heard this. This has been my go-to if I don't want to listen to anything too heavy and I'm cooking and I just kind of want to boogie a little bit. So this is, and I got this from Devin Cahill from who's been on the show from Monster X Exploding Corpse Action. It's a Japanese pressing. Erg, that's a U. Under the OB there. You can see it. And there's a lot of, when it gets to the Klaus Nomi, that's when I'm a little cringy when the vocals come in. But otherwise, I love the Oingo Boingo. I love 999. The X track was Beyond and Back is faster than the original, and it's got great energy. So this is just like one of my favorite records to listen to if I want to get into like some new wave, energetic poppy stuff. It's got some, if you're not super familiar, it's got some mainstream stuff like Police and XTC. Not my favorite XTC track, but I do really like them. I like that they have this kind of seething tension underneath them, and there's like a class consciousness. And I like XTC a lot, but
Yeah,
it's a pretty killer, for
Is that
81.
like an A&M Records sampler?
Yes. And there's a live kind of, I don't know if it's a documentary, but live footage of all these tracks that were recorded all over the place. And what's one of my favorites on here? Yeah, Homicide 909 is fantastic. And I really like, say what you will, the orchestral maneuvers in the Dark song is lovely. I love it. And it's like one of those things that if I heard it at a different point in my life, I'd be like, come on now. But I do have a spot.
Back then, I hated that stuff, but now it's like I appreciate like how good it was. That band was so good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I could go down the list, but there's a handful of tracks that I'd really love, and I just like listening to this in the other room, and it's fun. Oh, okay. Well,
Oh, there you
go. What else? Athletico Spiz.
Oh.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Around the late 70s. I read that they changed their name to that to correspond with the Moscow Olympics.
They changed their name a whole bunch of times, right? From Spiz, Spiz Energy.
Yeah.
But I love their track, and I love the footage of them. Like they're going nuts. So yeah, there's some kind of grit to it. Like there's some harder punk stuff along with the new wavy energy. So yeah,
on there too.
What's up?
Is there sound on there too?
The sound?
Or am I thinking of something else?
I don't think so. Well, there's a lot. Yeah, it's double LP. There's 10 tracks. Who else? I love the Go-Go's, and We Got the Beat. It's just got great energy to live version. So yeah, just really talking about comps that are listenable. There's a few tracks, like I said, that are kind of cringers or not super interested, but yeah, but yeah, it's one of my, I like to put it on and do my thing around the house.
I've got to say that
That's pretty nice. What's up?
That is quite. You see that like a lot in the and I should have picked it up a long time ago. I will.
And it was the inspiration for these two Slap-A-Ham kind of tributes. Instead of like the Blearg. Where people's not familiar, like each of these, the first one has 41 bands, 64 songs. So it's like
the second one called The Son of Blurg.
The Son of Blurg.
Yeah.
Is the second one The Son of Blurg?
Yes.
It's Blurg, A Music War.
Oh, okay.
The second one's called Son of Blurg, right?
Yeah, I thought it was, but yeah, these two, unless there's three. I think there's only
three.
Two. Yeah,
there could be three. You might be missing the sun.
Yeah.
The prodigal.
Yeah, we got Fuck on the Beach representing Japan. Slight Slappers, Milk Banana. Yep, unbelievable. You
did two picks just like I did.
Yeah.
It's a good move.
Oh,
it's a good move.
I'm just
very quietly.
For that adorable Chris Dodge sense of humor. One little record.
Nice.
Yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, so Napalm Death weren't the only ones. Yeah.
Beautiful. Nice.
Yeah, I remember
renting. Said the Dead Kennedys are on the in the movie, but not on the.
Yeah, they weren't on the comp. I did hear that. Yeah. Yeah, pretty wild.
All right.
My next.
Yes.
All right. So my next pick is kind of a whole record label, but I'll settle on one. I don't have all the releases on the label, but I've just been really interested in the label lately because I just sort of realized like, oh, I like everything I've heard on this label. It's Bemis Brain Records from California, which is
Nice.
a small label run by someone from Modern Warfare. So both of the Modern Warfare 7-inches are on there. And I think there's been a couple that have come up on the show on this label. Like I think I remember someone talking about The Crude.
That was one of my picks, I think, the first time that I was.
I thought it was you or Jeff, yeah. And then I'm pretty sure we talked Hell Comes to Your House on the show before. But my actual pick is the other compilation on Bemis Brain, which is When Men Were Men and Sheep Were Scared.
And on the show, we were trying to figure out what the name of that comp was because I couldn't remember it because I don't have that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I picked this up a couple weeks ago because I sort of realized all these things were on Bemis Brain that I really liked. And it's a good comp. There's some really ripping stuff on here, like Rhino 39 is on here. There's 2 Target of Demand songs on here that are really, really good, even though I feel like their LP is just kind of okay. And then there's this band Red Beret. I think they have another record also, but their songs are cool. I want to check them out. And The Crude is on here also, but there's some sort of goofy stuff on here too. Like the Vandals do a really, really distasteful song. It's a cover of the Copacabana, but it's called the Dachau Cabana. And it's all about like,
Christ.
Yeah. Just real classy shit. Another of a really funny moment on here, it's goofy, but it just cracks me up. The Nip Drivers, their song starts and they start playing Nervous Breakdown by Black Flag, and it's like building up, and then when it's about to go, like, I'm about to have a nervous breakdown, they bust into Rio by Duran Duran. Her name is Rio and she dances, which I like. I really hope they did live. That would be a funny situation. But yeah, like I don't know, a lot of stuff this label put out, a lot of it has this sort of like slightly arty hardcore aesthetic, like Rhino 39 and Modern Warfare, and I think some of the bands on Hell Comes to Your House kind of have that vibe, which just kind of jibes with my taste a little bit. A lot of bands that are like fast and energetic, but not sort of like roaring and macho, more sort of like nervy and agitated, which maybe is kind of more my style. But yeah, that's been listening to a lot of Bemis Brain stuff and pretty cool comp. Also, another thing I keep thinking about, Bloodstains played here the other week, and they have a song called When Men Were Men and Sheep Were Scared, and that's like the chorus. So today I Googled that phrase, and
be careful.
And I was like, is this like a cultural thing? But surely Bloodstains must have gotten it from this comp, I guess.
See, when we sort of sheep is brought up in this kind of context, I always think of whales, because there's the stereotype of the Welsh countryside of people enjoying themselves with sheep in the night. That's why.
Yeah, and it's funny, when I was Googled the phrase, the comp kept coming up, and something said something about the cover being lewd, and I totally didn't notice. It's all these like manly men, like Elvis and John Wayne and Mr. T and Batman and Hitler, but like John Wayne's like penis is out, and he's like clearly like getting himself ready to go after these sheep in the bottom.
See, I'm familiar with the cover, but I've never seen a copy in person, so I don't know. Like I've never been able to decipher who's actually on the cover and what's going on with that. But
John Wayne's very well endowed, I can tell you that, as you'd expect from an American hero.
Yes. Anyway, did you find that out when you were googling that?
John Wayne penis.
That's going to completely alter your googling history. The sheep and the men in one Google search.
MDC, like John Wayne was a Nazi, was John Wayne was well endowed, and thought it wasn't very punk. Yeah.
Nice. All right, Dave. What's your next pick? Fourth pick.
All right.
All right.
Well, I am here on Analog Attack, so I feel like I got to do the bargain bin banger. This is a record I've been listening to since I was a teenager. It's one of these records that's fuck. I hadn't thought about it in a long time, but a couple weeks ago I was like, oh, I'll just throw that on. It's been a little bit. Put it on, and I've just been repeatedly listening to it like nonstop. 1991, Michigan, but this is Civil Disobedience in a Few Hours of Madness. Yeah, this record is just like it's just such a unique record, and I mean, then like the LP that followed it, also very good, but this record, I mean, so you've got two vocalists that essentially sound like a couple of gremlins that are switch hitting off each other to like do the delivery. You've got these guitar leads and guitar parts in it that are like melodic, but they're also like batshit crazy. Like it just sounds insane. And I mean the tracks on here, like there's so much aggression and there's so much fucking venom in like these 4 tracks, and it's just like I've never heard anything else like this. And it's kind of one of those things that's like, this is what makes punk like so special, because it's just like you get a band like this from like, I think they're from like a couple hours north of Detroit. And just kind of came out of nowhere, and like I think it was 2 bands that formed to make this one band. But I mean, it's just like a bunch of weirdos getting together, making like a batshit crazy punk record like this. And yeah, I mean, just super unique, super original, great songs, probably a couple more samples in this than I'd like to hear, but nevertheless, like this, I still feel like this holds up to this day. And I mean, you can get a copy of this for like, I don't know, like $2. Like I would be surprised if you couldn't find this in most bargain bins, but worth every penny. Yeah, good stuff.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is my bargain bin banger pick of this session.
I've seen that record many times and didn't have any frame of reference for it, and I'm excited for next time I find it.
Yeah.
So you've never heard it?
No, I never listened to it, but I like recognized it immediately. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it is awesome. And so the crummy thing about it is, so prior to that 7-inch, I think they had a tape that came out. It might have been in 1990 or maybe even as early as 89. I want to say it was called Political Prisoners. But basically I think it's like 14 tracks that didn't show up here, didn't show up on the LP, but I think it's just as good as the stuff that's on that 7-inch. And I know, so like I was in Philly maybe in like 2006, and I was on tour with another band, and we had a merch table set up, and I just happened to be next to one of the guys that was in this band, and I was talking to him about it because I said, like, your guys' demo, like, is that ever going to come out on vinyl? Oh yeah, we're going to do like a discography and everything. Anyways, to this day, it is still not come out, and I think it's a shame because a lot of the tracks that are on that demo are, like I said, just as good as this. But yeah, like hopefully that sees the light of day at some point. I know a couple of them have passed on, which is unfortunate, but yeah, hopefully somebody out there is going to put that to vinyl, because I mean, that would be kind of shitty if that never saw the light of day. So yeah. But anyways, that's my pick.
Nice.
Yeah, I got that when I was a teenager too, definitely from Neo from Tribal War and
Sick.
ABC No Rio. And I saw them at ABC maybe 2-3 years after that came out.
Oh,
And,
okay.
yeah, really weird. There's some like weird aggressive kind of ska up tempo, like upbeat strumming, like but with
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good way to describe it.
I didn't want to scare anybody off by saying there's like in a cup of like a track, there's like almost like an underlying like dubbish like breakdown, but it's just like it's got that vibe, but not in like we're Operation Ivy kind of way. It's more this like weirdo, like they take it as an influence, not like we're gonna be a white guy reggae band. So
yeah. I mean, it's like filth vocals over just like kind of whatever you call that kind of strumming. So it definitely doesn't sound,
And that's the thing, because it's just like the leads, the the riffs and like everything about it is just so fucking absurd and unique, but it all blends together and it all works really, really well. Like it's such a wild record. And like I said, I mean, it's one of those records that you're like, yeah, this is what it's about, like just bunch of people getting together, making this weirdo fucked up record, and it all works, and it's just kind of a wonderful thing. So yeah.
Cool. I'm going to go about as far away from that as you can possibly get. Talking about like scaring people, I'm scared of even like talking about this. But I've got to talk about it. I was saying that the Apostles was like the first punk band that I was kind of obsessed with. I think this was the first sort of band that I was obsessed with. I think, the first LP that I bought was from this band. Sabbath, Zeppelin, Purple. Who are we missing? The big four of rock. They don't sound anything like those other bands, but they're always put together in my mind. Pink Floyd. I'm talking about Pink Floyd.
Okay.
For me, those four are like the big four for 14, 13-year-old Analog Attack. That was my big four. Love Pink Floyd. Haven't heard anything from Pink Floyd like post the final cut. Nothing. And I know that like David Gilmour carried on the band and put out some records like The Division, blah, blah, blah. I haven't heard any of those. And yet here I am, sat here buying a solo record by David Gilmour, 2024, and I have a reason why I bought this record. Almond and the Sniffers, actually. Almond and the Sniffers brought me to this record in a really strange way. Do you guys know like the Jules Holland like TV show on the BBC? It's been going since, it's a very sort of middle of the road like muso. Yep. But they've had some good. It's like they've had some good performances on there over the years. He's hard to take, but there's some really good footage over the years. But anyway, I guess like Almond and the Sniffers were on Jules Holland like a couple of weeks ago in the BBC studios. I guess that came up in my YouTube feed. I watched it, then I just forgot about it. Fire up YouTube like a week ago. Another guy was on the same episode. It was Dave Gilmour, and it was just at the top of my sort of like YouTube thing. I was like, okay, might as well watch this while I'm here. I was like crying my eyes out within like 30 seconds of like this song playing. It's this song he like does with his daughter, who's like 23, 22 years old, and it's actually a cover song. And this is crazy. It's a cover song by a band called the Montgolfier Brothers, who I now know were like a kind of dream pop, indie pop band, very obscure. And for some reason, Dave Gilmour and his wife loved this song. And they used to put it on mixtapes and mix, playlists for themselves and their friends. And they just loved this song. And years later, this year, in fact, they were kind of messing around with it in Dave Gilmour's barn, and he tried singing it, and he's like, man, my vocals just like do not match this song. So, oh, I've got an idea. I'll get my daughter to come in and sing it, and she did it in one take. And when you hear it, it will blow your mind. It's absolutely incredible. It almost sounds like a Massive Attack with the woman from Tracy Thorn. You know, that song Protection. It kind of has that feel to it. What am I talking about? Hang on, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the new Dave Gilmour record, Luck and Strange. Here I am. You know, man, honestly, I'm dehydrated because I've been shedding so many tears over this. That's why I'm drinking so much beer. Just beautiful, beautiful song. So because of that one song, I went out and bought the record. Now, the rest of the songs on the record, they're not as good as that song. But nevertheless, I'm here. They did that thing, you know, that what Voivod did with Piggy. They found like some of his like guitar riffs and stuff on a laptop, and they managed to sort of make new songs and records out of like Piggy's. They did that with Rick Wright, who was the Pink Floyd keyboard player who passed away, and Dave Gilmour and Rick Wright were very close friends, and Dave Gilmour sort of found some of his sort of jamming, and he kind of made a song out of it. It's really nice, you know. But you know, I get it. Nobody cares about like a billionaire rock star. You know, I think this is an amazing record. But I'm not recommending anyone here watching or on this panel to buy this record. I'm saying go and watch that footage of like the song is called Between 2 Points, and it's just David Gilmour and his band, young band. Brian Eno's son is in the band.
Okay.
We're almost getting to Sunday Night Punk now. Brian Eno, Dream Pop cover. And it was pressed. This is pressed at Fat Possum's pressing plant, Memphis.
Okay.
In the US. So even though this is like the Japanese pressing, it wasn't pressed in Japan. It was pressed at Memphis pressing plant, which is run by Fat Possum Records, I think. But beautiful, beautiful song. I defy you not to at least want to shed 1 or 2 tears. You know what this album reminds me of? It's very similar. It's like the new Cure record.
Which I still have not heard yet.
Not musically, but like thematically. He's at the end of his career. It's about like looking back, mortality, close friends who passed away. It's all about that. So this is sort of like the Rolling Stones sort of dad rock version of like that new Cure record, like thematically, not musically. Yeah, but very similar. In fact, it's so similar it was kind of frightening how similar it is actually in lyrically, thematically. That's my last pick. I had to talk about it because it's been on my turntable, and I think that one song is absolutely incredible.
I'll have to get you to send me a link
I'll
to that.
Send you guys the link. Then you're more than welcome to make fun of me. But I mean, you know, it does bring a tear. Also, you know, I grew up with this guy's guitar playing, you know, and you see him like 78 years old, you know, and it's, I don't know, it just, you know what I mean? It's, time is, the sound glass is running lower. But I was going to say something else. I know people will think, has anyone seen that, like, that footage of Heart when they do Stairway to Heaven? And like, don't, because I hate it. But I think it's what people will think of that when they see it. It's like that very like showbiz schmaltz. It's like Heart with a big orchestra, and Jason Bonham is on drums, and Led Zeppelin are in there. You know, Robert Plant's in with a suit watching, and Robert Plant's crying, and Michelle and Obama are there. And they're crying, and I hate that. But if you read the comments, everyone's like, "This is the most emotional thing I've ever seen." It's oh my god! I'm like, no, it's it's horrible. This, I think, people might think it's a little bit like that, you know, like showbiz schmaltz kind of thing. I don't think so. I think it's genuinely touching. So I'll send you the link.
Please do.
That's my last pick. About as far away from shit as you can possibly.
So sweet. That's how I feel about Two Live Crew.
There you go.
Brings you to tears.
I thought that's what the pick was going to be based on the description. duet with the daughter, figures face down, ass up. It had to be. Yeah. All right, so this is the last one. This is only came out a couple months ago.
All right.
And this is this band's 10th record. It's a very different direction than what we're headed there. We're talking the death metal realm. So it's a 10th record from down south, South Carolina. I saw this band in '98 with Cryptopsy, and very much as a drummer, like a clinic to watch these two. And there was a different drummer than they have now, but incredible, like Triumph, this record. If you have any, into death metal at all. So this is Niall's new one.
Oh,
The World Awaits Us All. It is absolutely unbelievable. Production is very like beefy. It's not like that kind of super clicky death metal for technical stuff like that. And I've listened to some interviews with Carl Sanders, who's like the kind of mastermind there. And these are, by all accounts, and like really sweet, thoughtful, intelligent guys who are just super nerdy. I love a death metal band that's nerdy. So they're like practically Canadian. Very unpretentious, but they love the music. They love the genre. It is about
Egypt. Good guess.
Yeah, and, and I'm like, I didn't really follow them since the couple records I heard, because I'm like, okay, I get it, but I heard a couple tracks from this before it came out, and I pre-ordered it, and I'm not like a super technical drummer, but this guy George Collies, who's from Greece. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, Dave, but he's been with the band since like 2005. He's just astonishingly good, and this record is just very thoughtful. Like, it starts out super, super heavy and complicated. It's a beautiful looking record too. But it's just the sequencing is really, really good because it hits you right away. Then it gets a little more kind of progressive and instrumental at times. But goddamn, it's so good without being so technical that you kind of get lost in it, like that sort of Dillinger Escape Plan thing where there's nothing to hold on to.
Right.
Yeah.
With some sick grooves, and there's a couple kind of 2-minute bangers that you start to listen to them and you're like, this is just too much. And then once you kind of get it, it's so phenomenal. You could tell just like they spent 5 years on this. And so if you're into the genre at all, it's incredibly impressive and listenable and powerful.
Very unique band, ancient Egypt themes, like death metal band. Like, I'm familiar with like a couple of their classics. Right, they've got a lot of records, right, Derik? A lot. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Black Seeds of Vengeance. I think it's like one of their classics from the past. But
yeah.
When did they start off, Derik?
Then did they start at like early 90s?
Okay.
92, 93. So they're all like in their 50s now. They had some number changes. But if you look up this guy, George, not George, yeah. It's spelled like Colias with a K, Collias. He does a lot of clinics and stuff like that. Like really, really nice guy, very like kind of unmetal in terms of that, what you'd imagine. But very original style. Like I'll nerd out some other time maybe with you, but about the drumming. But yeah, like Mike, I know you're not into. I think we're kind of on the same page as far as metal production. Like if it's just super clean, it loses all its power. This is like a sweet spot for me.
Really nice. Okay.
Where, there's so much going on. You really want to hear it, but it's not like like latter era kind of deicide where there's no power left to it. It's just all
kind of grit and soul in there.
Yeah, it's big and powerful, but also clean in the sense you can hear everything. So it's like, for me, it's like the perfect recording for this kind of music. Double LP, it's a lot, and but it's very listenable. Like put it on, and it's just impressive. It sounds great, and yeah, it's probably one of my favorite death metal records. And the runner-up was Cryptopsy, this live recording where None So Live from early 2000s. So this is the last thing I'll say that's kind of nerdy. But when None So Vile came out, like it kind of reminded me of Aslak's like Anti-Capital in the sense that it was really impressive, but it was kind of sloppy when you really listen to it because it's just so fast and so. And the production's great, but it kind of you could tell they're kind of just starting out. So this live recording is one of those rare live recordings where it sounds so good, and you could tell they kind of mastered it at that point.
Right.
And that dude Flo from drummer from Cryptopsy is also one of my favorites.
He's an animal.
I played a show in Sherbrooke not too long ago, and it was mostly metal bands. So I just sat around talking to all the drummers, and we were just nerding out about our favorite drummers, and that's kind of what got me to revisit sort of the genre and talking about. And I love a lot of like 90s French Canadian hardcore, and so just talking about metal. And these are all younger kids who've never heard of any of the bands I was influenced by, like kind of Uranus and stuff like that, Drift and all that. So it was just a really cool kind of like resurgence of that sort of nerdy metal guys who were kind of my favorite. Like, intellectually curious, smart, like, they just love the music. They love the musicianship, but they're not, egotistical about it, pretentious about it. So there's something that's the punk element of it, like the real love for it and the passion for that kind of, being good storytellers. And the Egypt thing is like, I'm not particularly interested in it, but they're very sincere. Like they do their research and, they've traveled there and done a lot of research. So it's really, they put a lot into it. Really impressive.
Cool.
Musically incredible. Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
That's it for me.
Everyone was talking about the stains in the comment.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw Cryptopsy. I very clearly remember like my first year of college. So it would have been 97 or 98. And I can't remember if Nile played or not.
Same
Were they
tour.
on?
Death Across America tour.
Yeah, maybe they did play. I don't remember.
Played with them. But yeah, so I'm in Jersey. This place, Obsessions. There's a lot of like Jersey metal clubs. Like,
I got it now.
yeah. Really, really cool. And I was young and able to watch that level of drumming. It was really amazing. I like it.
All right. Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. What's your last pick?
My last one, I was looking at like the records I've been listening to lately, and I was listening to this because Scarecrow was driving home from Richmond a few months ago, and we play Richmond all the time, and I always end up driving back after the show. It's like 2.5 hours away, so we just like listen to records, and it's always me and Jeff in the front chatting. And this album came on, and Jeff was like, "Oh, I've never really listened to that band." I was like, "Huh." And then I searched for him on the list, and I don't think anyone's ever picked him on the show too. And I was like, wild. Because the band, I feel like their name is pretty well known because they're from a very well-known scene, but they're not one of the better known bands of that scene. They kind of stick out like a sore thumb in that scene. I'm dropping hints.
What scene are you talking about?
They may also have the distinction in some record collections of being filed between Black Flag and Black Sabbath. That is, unless you have a record by Black Randy, who will come stick right in there and block them in that privileged position. I'm talking about Black Market
Baby.
Yeah.
I just got the Baby Takes record just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of discovered them. And then eventually I was able to like track down the original LP. But like I said, they really stand out from the DC scene because they totally don't have the sort of like clean cut thing happening at all. It's like they're very grimy, much more influenced by like UK punk, I would say, like kind of UK subs, that kind of thing. But, you know, speaking of the Baby Takes record, I was thinking about how I think my favorite Black Market Baby song isn't on this, but it's on the Baby Takes. So
Okay.
I don't know what it originally came on,
Mm.
but it's the song Backseat Sally that has like the greasiest lyrics ever. It's like, I remember one of the lines is like, Sally's good in bed, but she's better in a van. It's like,
That Ian MacKay didn't write that one.
no. And that's like a pretty good indication of like their scumminess. There's also like in one of those DC documentaries, they're interviewing the singer, and he's like decked out head to toe in Washington Redskins gear. And it's just like, oh, this is such a bummer, dude. But the band is killer. I don't know. It's just like up my alley. I like
that record is so
you know?
catchy.
Yeah, it really is. And it's like, it's not catchy in a sort of obnoxious or obvious way. It's like, it's still got all the grit. It's just like, these guys were like fucking good songwriters, you know, and made killer records, or at least one killer record. I was telling Jeff, and Jeff didn't know this. I think there was supposed to be a Black Market Baby Bad Brain split single that was supposed to come out. And the lore I remember is that there were like a few test pressings made, and I think one of them was in the jukebox at the Black Cat originally. Whoa. So that was like the only place you could listen to it.
Wow.
I may be crossing wires, I don't know, but that was the
totally sounds familiar, but
yeah. So yeah, that's my pick. I've just been like, since it came up with Jeff, I've played it a bunch of times. I'm like, man, this record kicks ass. Yeah.
Well, like you mentioned, it's, you know, obviously very influenced by like UK punk, and, you know, a lot of those first wave UK punk bands, like they were such good songwriters. And I think not only like the sound, but also like the approach to songwriting, I think that carries over onto that record as well. Yeah.
Nice. A lot going on in the chat.
Yeah, I'm like catching up.
Dave from Truro. Who's Dave from Truro?
That's me.
Dave.
Truro is in England.
Yeah.
Are you from Truro?
Truro, Nova Scotia.
Ah.
Yeah. Not. I'm actually going to be in Truro, England, probably in April.
But Truro, Devon, right? Or Cornwall? Cornwall, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
I was like, Dave from Truro. That's the only Truro I know, is the Cornish. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
But yes, it is me.
It is he.
Yeah.
Oh, and responding to Bill's comment, like I think that song "Potential Suicide" is kind of Black Market Baby's like most well-known song, but it's not one of my favorites, honestly. I think that song, maybe if the chorus is a little bit repetitive or something. I think they got better songs. So
the single is not as like, I definitely prefer the full length over the single, but yeah.
Nice. It's one of those ones that I did buy it, but I haven't spent enough time yet with it to give a formed opinion.
Yeah, that song "Backseat Sally" almost sounds like it could be on the Dictator's Blood Brothers or something. It's like, it's really super melodic. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Last pick of the day. Dave from Truro. What's your last pick?
All right. So, a lot of, I guess, people currently talking about, you know, French oi and this French like punk resurgence and everything. But not to take away from that, but the first wave of like just classic 77 French punk, a lot of good stuff there. Jordan, I think a couple weeks ago, mentioned this band because they just had a compilation record that Reminder Records put out of all their earlier stuff. And as much as I like that stuff, it's different by the Dogs.
Look at that.
So this is their first, I'm pretty sure this is their first like proper full length.
Wow.
Now it came out on Philips in France, but oddly enough, there was one other country where it got pressed back in 1979, and that was Canada. So this is the Canadian press of the Dog's full length from 1979. Really, like, fairly difficult to like track down. Like, I'd been looking for a copy for this for many, many years. It's usually, this is the cleanest one that I found. You can see a little bit of ring wear up on the top there, and just like from the material that they, you know, use to make the sleeves, like these things suffer from a lot of ring wear usually. So usually the whole front is all kind of scoured and stuff. But yeah, great. Like, we were kind of talking before about sort of like you know, first wave punk, like I mentioned, like Teenage Head. It's got kind of that rock and rolly kind of vibe to it, but very much like firmly planted in, you know, this new sound that is punk. But I mean, you know, not to scare you away, there's a little bit of harmonica on there, but like, it's like, I would put this in the same category as, yeah, like I said, the first Teenage Head record, you know, Birdman and the Saints. You know, if you like the Flaming Groovies, like the early Groovies, like this is going to be really up your alley. This record is awesome. I mean, this is another one of those, you know, first wave punk records that doesn't get enough attention, I feel. You know, I think it got reissued like back in the 2000s, like the early 2000s, but I don't think there's been like a recent reissue of it. And I think because it's kind of fairly hard to track down, and you know, the only North American pressing of it was you know, the one that came out in Canada, which I just said is pretty difficult. So I feel like this one kind of falls by the wayside a little too often. But yeah,
Beautiful. How does it match up to the Diodes? Is it similar?
oh no, it's blows it out of the fucking water. Oh yeah. No, this is great. It's, I don't even know if you can find this on YouTube, because I tried to look this up once or twice, like when I was in the work van to listen to it, and if you look up Dogs and Different, yeah, you don't really get this. So, anyways, yeah, you get different dogs, but not Dogs Different. Yes. So, anyways, you know, it might be a little bit difficult to like check this out, but I mean, if you see a copy of this, like, you should definitely scoop it. Well worth taking a shot on it for sure. So
it reminds me of like so many records. It looks like that band Secret Affair, the mod band, like it looks like
that looks like Paul Weller.
It looks like many things.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to like remember. It just reminds me of so many kind of mod or second wave of mod or records that just have the guys on the front looking sharp, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of a mod influence, but like I would say more of like a, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's overly mod. So
Okay.
yeah,
that's great. That's the third time that we've talked about the Dogs on the show.
Oh, really?
All different records. Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. There's the Melodies Massacres, and then the one that Jordan showed, and then today's pick. So that's three.
Yeah.
3 different dogs. 3 pigs. Sorry, I'm trying to tie into David Gilmour, but I can't. All right, 2 hours has flown by. We've had a great time. Been a great show. Great picks, except one of mine. There we go. There we go. Thanks for tuning in. It was a fun show. Let me just announce next week's show. Paul, he's in the chat. Paul Bear is coming back on. Mikey Yanich back on.
Jersey boy.
Yes, and Alan McNaughton from Neutrals, that Neutrals record is one of my favorites of this year. Alan was in Osaka a couple of months ago. We had a great time. He spilt his pint all over me. Yeah. All right, that's it. I guess we'll sign off. we've got something to talk about after the show. We might keep talking about it. We might keep talking about it for the OnlyFans content. All right. Until next time, everybody.